Hello, I'm Leroy Jones, your host of Nana Talks, where voices meet and communities rise. Today we have our guest, Mr. Edward Haynes, the president of the Circle of Commerce. How you doing, Mr. Haynes?
Fantastic, my brother. How are you?
Good, man. So I know how very busy you are, brother. So,
Right.
man, to get you on my show is an honor. It's an honor, brother.
Well, the honor's all mine, seeing that many years ago we sat on some concrete blocks
Mm-hmm.
and your vision of Nana became flesh.
Wow. You remember that?
I remember that.
30 years ago now.
30 years ago.
This
There was a
December
thought.
will mark 30 years now that been in existence.
It was just a thought on paper bags.
Yeah, right.
With pencils.
That's crazy, huh?
Absolutely.
So let's start off by telling the audience a little bit about yourself, your background.
Okay.
Where you grew up at?
I grew up, initially I was born in a small town called Palmetto, Florida.
Mm-hmm.
Born in Bradenton, Manatee County, Florida. But I was raised in Tallahassee, Florida. And I went through middle school, high school there. Grew up as a son of an individual who made history, was the first Black secretary of what was called at that time the Department of Health and Rehabilitative Services, which is now known as Department of Children's Services and the Department of Juvenile Justice. So I was able to see, coming from a small town, which primary revenue came from farming, tomatoes, oranges, strawberries, to being a part of a family that was a part of the governor's cabinet. So I was afforded the opportunity to be exposed to a lot of different things at a young age.
So the male who helped raise you was the first
Black secretary and only of HRS, Health and Rehabilitative Services.
Now Children and Families.
It split in half. At that time, it was the largest state agency, and then it split in half. And Children's Services and Juvenile Justice at one time was one agency called HRS.
So did you move to Miami as an adult, or your family relocated to Miami?
I moved to Miami as an adult as a result of when I was in the Marine Corps and I was living in Tallahassee. I met my wife, who was a business student at Florida A&M University, and she was from Miami. So after we got married and we spent a little time in Tallahassee, we decided to relocate back to her hometown. So we moved here, and then I was a Marine Corps recruiter in Fort Lauderdale.
Okay, so you get out of the Marines, and then you move into the profession of law enforcement. Am I correct?
That is correct.
Okay, so tell us about that.
Well, from getting out of the Marines, I was actually hanging out with some friends and a brother-in-law who happened to be a police officer in the city of Opelika. And there's an area in Opelika called the Triangle.
Right.
And in the Triangle, they used to do these drug stings. And at the time, I knew the chief and I knew several police officers, and they knew I could handle myself because I was just getting out of the Marines. So I was actually hanging out with them doing drug stings in the Triangle when I met an individual who was a lieutenant from Miami Shores Village Police Department. And he started talking to me. He said, "Wow, man, you're pretty good. I haven't seen you before. What department are you with?" And I said, "Oh, man, I'm not a cop. I'm just hanging out." He said, "You're not a what?" I said, No. I just got out of the Marines." And then, so he began to ask me these questions, which I did not know was really a job interview.
Okay.
And before I knew it, I was in the police academy and became the first Black police officer in Miami Shores.
So you was the first African-American police officer for the city of Miami Shores.
Correct.
So Opelika, you talked about the Triangle. So the Triangle has opened up now. So at one time, it was only one way to get in and one way to get out. Now it has changed. Opelika has become a more quieter place to be. Not as much illegal activity happen there as it used to. So it's a real nicer place to be now, live now.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So how long you was a police officer for Miami Shores?
Actually, I did 3 years as an active police officer. However, immediately after becoming a police officer, I got certified as a police instructor.
Okay.
So I was teaching at the police academy simultaneously to being a cop. And after 3 years, I also was an entrepreneur.
Okay.
So I was doing different business things, and I was doing security for celebrities and entertainers. And after 3 years on the department, I just decided I was just going to become an entrepreneur and go full time doing security. And after 3 years, I resigned from the police department. And since that day, I have been self-employed doing security.
So I know you have, if not the largest, one of the largest Black security companies in Dade County.
South Florida, correct.
In South Florida?
Correct.
Wow.
Correct.
So after you leave the police force, you open up your own security company.
Mm-hmm.
And I heard you said that you was security for some elected officials and
Yes, absolutely. Done security. We were doing a lot of bodyguard work for, as a matter of fact, we were the ones who originated, because at the time when I started doing it, nobody was doing bodyguard work for celebrities in terms of Black people.
Okay.
Larry Blackman, who was the lead singer for a group called Cameo,
Mm-hmm.
is the one that inspired me to get in that field, because he was talking about how the Black entertainers did not have that component with them, where their counterparts would arrive at the airport, there was a limousine waiting, somebody was there with the sign. That didn't exist for Black people. So he advised me, why don't you start that? And that's what I did back at that time. And we started our first company doing security for celebrities and entertainers with people like Cameo, with people like Queen Latifah, Busta Rhymes,
Okay.
Tupac.
Okay.
You name them at that time frame, 89, 90s,
Mm-hmm.
we was doing it. So because I was a police instructor, I also knew all of the cops getting into law enforcement.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of them just wanted the exposure of hanging out with celebrities.
Right.
So we would do it for free.
Okay.
Not knowing that it was going to turn into a business.
A business, huh?
Yes.
Okay.
It has evolved to that since that time.
Okay. So let's switch hats a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
So you also involved in the largest Martin Luther King parade in the country?
Absolutely.
Let's
So this is the, I believe, 49th year. The Dr. Martin Luther King Parade and Festivities Committee, founded by Dr. Preston Marshall
Mm-hmm.
and Lady Jenkins. It's the largest and longest running continuous Martin Luther King parade in the world.
Mm-hmm.
It was sanctioned by the King family. Dr. Marshall and Lady Jenkins actually flew to Atlanta, met with Coretta Scott King, got her blessings to start the parade, which started just basically with a few vehicles and some people marching like 48, 49 years ago. And now it's over 8 miles long in terms of the parade. We have vendors, vendor booths. We have a huge contingency of people that volunteer to become a part of it. It is the largest economic impact for businesses in one day in Miami-Dade County and what we do. And happy to tell you that once we became partnered with the Circle of Brotherhood,
okay.
we were able to create more form and order. And the parade itself went from a parade to a Martin Luther King weekend.
Right.
So now I'm happy to make this announcement on your show that this year
Mm-hmm.
we're adding another component.
Okay.
And that component is we've partnered with Black Expo USA.
Oh, okay.
So this year we're going to have Black Expo at the Miami Beach Convention Center, that we're going to be having vendors, probably over 300 to 500 vendors that's going to be out there.
Okay.
We're going to be doing some very major things there in terms of concerts and things, but we're also going to have fighting. It's going to be a Miller Lite fight night.
Okay.
Where we're going to actually have boxing and bare knuckle fighting at the Miami Beach Convention Center, which is the place where Muhammad Ali actually fought. So we're bringing history back as a part of that whole thing to help raise money, not only for the parade, not only for the 5,000 role models of excellence, but also for the Circle of Brotherhood.
So, Dr. Marshall, a few years ago, passed away. He transitioned, and then Lady Jenkins became the president.
Right. She was basically, Lady Jenkins was pretty much in the background all the time. She was the one that handled all the administrative things of that nature. Dr. Marshall, of course, was the face of it.
Right.
He passed away, and then she had to step up and become the face and president. And then that's when I became the vice president.
So how long you been involved in the parade now?
I believe now we're looking at probably between 7, 8, 9, 10 years. It's been a little while now.
Okay. So now it's not just focused on that one day activity, which is always on a Monday in January.
Correct.
Maybe about 10 years ago, they moved it from 62nd Street to 54th Street because the street was a state road and the media was in the way on 62nd. So now you have the whole north and south side of the sidewalk and the driveway, right?
That is correct.
Which is made it more space.
More space.
Yeah.
And it is probably, I would probably say, other than Cayocho, it's probably one of the largest community collaborations between the public, the county, and the city that takes place in Miami-Dade County.
Right, working together
to make that happen.
And it is not just focused on that one day anymore. It's a weekend thing.
That's correct.
Right?
It's a full weekend
Saturday,
of activities.
And Sunday, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, all right. Some of the things y'all had last year.
Oh man, last year we had. Well, first of all, the last couple of years we've been able to attract some high-profile individuals. Last year we had Bob Duggan in there, multi-billionaire individual from the medical technology space. We had Nancy Cartwright, the voice of Bart Simpson.
Right.
We've had, who else? I think we had Malik Yoba one year there. But it's been an array of different celebrities, and it'll be no different this year. We'll make that announcement as we get closer in. But it is something where the community gets an opportunity to interact. We had Tommy Davidson last year also.
Right.
So it's an opportunity for not only for those celebrities that are normally sitting high and don't get an opportunity to interact with the public, they can actually get hands-on and deal with that. So we're going to keep that.
Last year, I was the Grand Marshal of the Martin Luther King Parade.
I didn't want to go into all of that, because I know how humble you are.
Right, that was amazing to me, though.
Yes.
I mean, it took a lot for me to do that. Not that I didn't think I was deserving of it,
right?
But because it's so many other people I think can benefit that spot than me, right?
Well,
and so I'm the type of person like. I help create leaders. I like to move people up in positions, right? Because I've had a lot of glory days, right? And so I was honored. I promise you, I was so flattered that I was selected along with Mel Carver at the time.
Absolutely.
Unfortunately, she got sick that weekend,
right?
And so me and her was gonna be dual.
Parade marshals.
Yes. So and think about how honored I was to be a parade marshal with our mayor.
Yes.
I love our mayor, Levine Carver. Right. Absolutely. So it would have been my honor to share that with her. And I even though she wasn't there, I still shared it with her. Right.
Because from a point of view, her not physically being there did not negate the fact that she was a parade marshal for that. Right. And on to your point, I wanted to reserve that comment to last because when people look at stars or celebrities, we often forget the locals, the people that's actually on the ground. And in politics, it's often said, politics is a local activity, not a national thing. And a lot of times people forget that. They try to get involved on a national level, but all politics actually happens on a local level, just like all real work takes place on a local level. You are a local icon. So it was only fitting that you were asked to be a parade marshal because of the work that you've done in several organizations, not just the Circle of Brotherhood, but Brothers of the Same Mind, NANA, I can remember when you came up with the concept of Nana, because your concern was, even though your family had a store, even though you guys pretty much had a situation that was well doing well, you were concerned with other small businesses, especially from the viewpoint that they were intimidated by the process of trying to apply for grants and loans. And I can remember having a conversation with you when we talked about the paperwork that would be an inch thick that people had to fill out. And a lot of people in the underprivileged communities were intimidated by that. Mm-hmm. And therefore, they would not even apply, even though money was available. Right. They wouldn't even try. Mm-hmm. So you advocated to take that 30 or 40 page document down to 2 to 3 pages. Right. That was unheard of back then.
I remember one year it was 1 page, and they were saying, no way you can get that approved.
Right.
And the county attorney office approved it.
I saw it.
And that probably was the first time in the history that people can apply for government grants. Yeah. Filling out 1 simple page.
1 page.
Yeah, that was amazing.
I witnessed this. So I don't know what anybody else is talking about. Mm-hmm. I saw this happen myself.
Yes, sir.
And from that, because that only was happening in District 2. Mm-hmm.
District 3.
I'm sorry, District 3. That was happening in District 3 only. Mm-hmm. That concept that you thought up, that God sent you, then expanded throughout the whole county as what's called the Mom and Pop Grant Program right now today.
Yes, sir.
You are to be acknowledged for that.
Yes. And thanks to Dr. Barbara Curry Schuler for seeing the vision in me to be able to pull that off and do that.
Absolutely.
So what this is not about me. It's about you. How about that?
But guess what?
Thank you.
It's only about me because I'm here because of you. See, it's important for people to understand that in order for individuals to have the intuition, to have the motivation to try to go out and do something different, they have to see it.
Have to see it done, right?
Themselves.
Yeah.
So even though it's about me, I'm a continuation of you. Yes, because sir. What I saw in you, I then wanted to duplicate, which I did.
Thank you.
So now I became you, while you became the next level of you. So then I began to want to advocate on that level. So everything that we've done has been an effort to empower the community from where we were at the time.
Yeah.
You see?
Yeah.
So that's why I can say it's about me, but I'm only a reflection of you.
Thank you, brother. I appreciate that.
Yes, sir.
So tell us about the Circle of Commerce.
Well, again, just like Nana has grown into this beautiful budding organization that started from a few people that you went store to store trying to get them to understand having a collaborative is better than trying to operate independently.
Right.
The Circle of Commerce came about because being one of the Hunger Nine, and we participated in the hunger strike back in 2019, one of the epiphanies that I received while out there during the hunger strike is that in our communities overall, which are duplicates of communities across the United States, there are food deserts. There are things where there are no economic engines in the lower economic communities. So one of the reasons why we face the trauma and all of the crime and things we have is because of a lack of financial literacy and economic empowerment. So while going through the hunger strike, the concept of the circle, 360 degrees, was the theme. But then it became, well, we have cleaners, we have plumbers, we have lawn care businesses. We have all these different businesses in our community. And those businesses have been separated and taught to work in silos. What would happen if we could go, number one, in them working in silos? The educational system is not necessarily like it was years ago. So you have a bunch of people, many of which are literally illiterate, that are trying to do business but have no business training. So the concept of the Circle of Commerce was born out of that. And that's why anyone that's interested can go to circleofcommerce.com and see exactly what this strategy that we came up with to create an empowerment vehicle in the community that the community can be responsible. And a gentleman by the name of Mr. Hubbard, L. Ron Hubbard, had a concept where he said we must be responsible. And the definition of responsibility is the non-recognition and denial of any power outside of ourselves.
Right.
We cannot blame the white man. We cannot blame the devil. We cannot blame the system for our not learning how to become empowered.
Right.
So the circles of empowerment and the circle of commerce were born to go into the community, educate, re-educate, and enlighten the community to become responsible for themselves, to fuel the nonprofits by creating for-profit businesses that were structured properly, that were participating in the American system, and basically solving their own problems. That all came about, here again, because of our community involvement.
In the hunger strike.
And the hunger strike from the Hunger 9, 2019.
2019. So I know one new project you was working on is the 10X Hub.
Yes, sir.
You want to share something about?
Well, let's look at that.
10X Hub?
So in doing the Circles of Commerce, we were able to rally some support. We met a young lady by the name of Sherry Hamilton. And Sherry Hamilton is like the COO or the Chief Operating Officer for a pretty well-known individual by the name of Grant Cardone.
Okay.
And Sherry said to me, hey, Ed, because of my security background, we need to be working together with you on some security stuff, but I need to take you to the office so you can see what's happening. So she takes me there and I meet with Grant Cardone, Mr. Grant Cardone.
So Mr. Grant Cardone is a billionaire, right?
He's a multi-billionaire.
Okay.
So Mr. Grant Cardone, when we met with him, we started talking and we started talking about the plight of the community, not knowing totally that he himself was the product of a broken home. His dad died when he was like 10 years old. He had to basically step up as a kid and take on some of the responsibilities while watching his mom take on multiple jobs. But then he went through some hard times through drug addiction and homelessness and worked his way out of that. And because of that, he has an affinity for people in like circumstances. So he said to me, he said, Ed, listen, a lot of these guys are only involved in criminal activity because they're not making money.
Right.
I would love to help teach them how to make money. Can you help me with that? I said, absolutely. We got an organization, the Circle of Brotherhood. That's what we do. He said, oh, I'm going to challenge you. If you can bring them to my office in Aventura, we will start to teach them financial literacy and teach them how to become millionaires.
So I remember that. And you took a bunch of youth too that was in middle and high school.
That started in 2019. And right now in 2025, that program has also, just like Nana, expanded across the county. Right now, we're doing multiple schools across Dade County. They also are doing other chapters. They got one in Washington, D.C. They got one in South Africa. There's different things. But in terms of what your initial question was, in terms of the 10X Hub, the 10X Hub is actually a classroom that is dedicated to teaching principles of financial prosperity and education, literacy, that is located in the community. And it's going to be located at the Circle of Brotherhood headquarters. There's a 10X Hub that we're going to be launching here in the next probably 30 to 60 days.
So I'm proud and happy to say that Nana has, Neighbors to Neighbors has partnered with the Grant Cardone Foundation with the 10X Hub to convert and have finished converted one of the classrooms into a 10X Hub.
Yes, sir.
At the Dr. Dorothy Bendroff Mendenhall Social and Economic Institute.
That is absolutely correct. And
a beautiful space, man.
Listen,
the community got to come and see that space.
I gotta give a special shout out to Dr. Mendenhall because it was her vision that understood that what Nana and what the Circle was trying to do was something that could impact the community, which is her responsibility to make sure the community is given tools that will work with them. And that is what we're doing now. So now we have this situation that is about to go down. We're hoping to work with individuals in NANA so those that are not as business savvy,
right.
we want to teach them. But through that 10X Hub, we're going to not only deal with businesses and adults, but we want to primarily focus on the future, which is children.
Right, the youth.
We want to take the youth and we want to teach them principles of economics and empowerment so that they become the new financial leaders in the future.
So very soon, people in the community will be able to come to Dr. Dorothy Bendroff Mendigal Social and Economic Institute.
Yes, sir.
And learn how to be billionaires.
Correct.
Right in the heart of Liberty City in Brownsville.
Absolutely. And you can't teach something that you haven't done.
Right.
So we're going to be learning from individuals that are providing us materials. Sometimes we'll have guest speakers themselves that have actually done it, but we'll have access to the curriculums and all of the knowledge that they have attributed to that. And it's going to be basically free of charge.
So I want to invite anybody in Dade County, no matter if you're from Homestead, Florida City, Miami Gardens, the Hammocks, Miami Beach, to please drop in at 5120 Northwest 24th Avenue in Miami, Florida. The zip code 33142 in case you have to Google it, MapQuest it, and come and take a look at the 10X Hub that's sponsored by multi-billionaire Grant Cardone.
Absolutely.
Mr. Edward Haynes is the target person, is the point person.
Board member.
Okay.
Of the Grant Cardone Foundation.
Okay.
And proud member of the Circle of Brotherhood. So this is community private partnerships between nonprofits working together, where we're taking individuals that have lesser positions in the community to ones that are higher positions in the community, and we're cross-referencing those knowledge bases. We're giving them access to the community, and we're giving the community access to this knowledge of wealth.
Cool. So one thing, I want to give you the opportunity. If it's anything you would hope I would have asked you that I didn't, that you want to share?
Absolutely. Well, the topic of violence, gun violence in particular, but violence nonetheless. Sometimes it appears that these issues that exist are very complicated, and they're really not.
Right.
Whenever you see conflict, whenever you see violence, whenever you see anything of that nature, it primarily is because of a lack of communication. One of our major issues is that we're not taught how to communicate effectively on multiple levels. The communication that takes place in the Poke and Beans is different from the communication that take place on Brickell.
Right.
Simple. However, if you were to take those individuals and give them access to the knowledge that each one has, that communication can take place.
Change the world, right?
And we are doing that with the police departments. Right. We're proving this as a fact, that once we started the police training, teaching the police to look at it from the community perspective and teaching the community to look at it from the police perspective, all kind of things just blew away right off of that alone. So if you ask me, what is the major thing that we should be focused on? It is how to communicate more effectively.
Cool. I like that. You know what? So we run out of time, but man, I love this dialogue we having, right?
Right.
And so I got to have you back on the show, you know?
No problem.
So here today we have Mr. Edward Haynes,
right,
who is the owner, president of Haynes Security Company.
Haynes Security Services.
Haynes Security Services. A executive member of the Circle of Brotherhood. The president of Circle of Commerce.
That's right. And the Circle of Empowerment.
And Circle of Empowerment, as well as the vice president or vice chair of the Martin Luther King Parade.
Vice President, Martin Luther King Parade.
Boy, this dude boy, you got a lot of hats.
It takes one to know one.
But you know what? I know you function on a high level, so you have to have a lot of things to do.
Right.
That's how your mind works, right?
Absolutely. And I want to also shout out Congresswoman Frederica Wilson,
right,
because I spent 5 years as the head of security for her. So another advantage I had was to be able to sit underneath the guidance and the leadership of a congresswoman when she came into office through the whole Obama years and all of that. I was able to sit in the rooms of politics and of power to see certain things. And it's so important, this show that you have, to provide news. So it's appropriate that it is taking place on the Community News Network.
So we're out of time, but I want to thank you for being my guest. And I want to thank Community Newspaper so much for this opportunity. Thank you.